Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dada. Well, I am overstimulated to the max here. I'm getting a little bit too much of a late start because I can't stop. There is too much. I'm like anxious about doing the podcast because it's like there's too much. I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to talk about. So we got to simplify here because there is just too freaking much right now. And if you wanted a peek into my brain, just go look at X, go look at my Twitter account, and you'll get a little bit of an idea of what the heck has been going on in my brain the last however long. On top of that, I still have to figure out what the heck is going on with this podcast. I can send an email with all this technical jargon, like, oh yeah, you're doing everything wrong. Like basically the format that I've been using for 7 years. He's like, oh yeah, I don't do that anymore. Do something else. So it's adding 10, 15 steps to my process just because, oh yeah, no, it's not that our system is bullcrap and can't handle what you've been doing that everybody else on planet Earth can handle. No. You're doing it wrong, and therefore nothing will work until you start doing things an entirely new way. So, got to figure that out. Hopefully, they got the Spotify issue worked out so that people on Spotify are now getting the podcast. One of the biggest days for my podcast all year, the two biggest days, the draft and the first Victory Monday. And my numbers are bullcrap because I have not had podcasts out for various reasons due to this absolute cluster F of a situation that I am massively regretting. I should have just told him to stuff it. I'm not moving. I'm staying right where I am. Shove it. But I didn't, and so here we are. And I appreciate those of you sticking it out. Hopefully we'll get this sorted out sooner than later. Hopefully you're hearing my voice right now. That would be great. Here's what I want to do. I want to try to keep it simple because, again, I'm not even going to be able to get started if I start promising you all the things that I want to do. I want to look at this and this and this and da-da-da-da. We're going to do what we always do. Today is PFF day, okay? That's what we're going to do. Any time left over, I will dedicate to something else. I would like to dig into some other stats. I'm guessing we're going to have plenty of time for that. We'll see. Of course, when I finally start getting focused. Okay, I'm back. It only took about 30 minutes to get back on track after that phone call. Because it's phone call and then it's, wait, what did this guy say on social media? I need medication. All right. PFF day and additional stats day. Also, before we get there though, I do want to give the latest updates that I have as far as injuries. So I understand that, again, I'm kind of on the outs here in terms of my perspective on this whole thing. And again, a lot of it has to do with my skepticism that the Packers are telling us anything truthful because they are not. That also, by the way, extends to some reports that may be coming out because the Packers are lying to the people. And one of the easiest ways to lie to the people is to lie to the people who are asking you the questions, like the reporters. So when a local beat reporter, as is the case here, says that he's heard rumors that he's going to be back very, very soon, and it's not just gamesmanship. The report that he's coming back soon and that it's not gamesmanship are from the people who are creating the gamesmanship. Consider the source, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean Jordan Love will not be back this week. It does mean that I'm still on the side of less than 50% that he returns. Like I said, 99% sure he wasn't going to play this past week, despite several people wanting to argue with me about it. Oh, no, he might be. We might be dropping down to like 80% sure he's not playing this week. We'll see. But let's just go through some of the reports that are coming out. The chances of Love playing Week 3 against the Tennessee Titans appear slim. Love's return in Week 3 is considered a long shot, according to some reports. Here is one of those reports. Adam Wells of Bleacher Report, NFL rumor, Packers Jordan Love out versus the Colts with a knee injury, could return Week 4. Notice, Week 4 is not this upcoming week. In other words, they're saying maybe Week 4, not Week 3. And by the way, that's what I've been saying for a very long time. Colts, Titans, no. After that, we can start to have a conversation about maybe he'll come back. Goes on to talk about some of the reports, Diana Rossini, et cetera, et cetera. Rossini added that Love returning in week 3 is considered a long shot, and the most optimistic timeline would have him back in week 4 against the Minnesota Vikings if there are no snags in his recovery. Again, that's best case scenario, according to Rossini, who has gotten some things wrong, admittedly. I'm sure I've seen already Packer fans immediately when Rossini says, yeah, it's not going to be this week, probably not going to be, until week 4. At the earliest, everyone's, oh, she got that one thing wrong. She got that one. Okay. Well, then I guess we just don't want information because everybody's gotten something wrong. So it's just a matter of anyone that doesn't say what I don't like, I'm just going to find something that they said that wasn't true. That way I can just keep believing whatever I feel like. Despite the fact that already made the most sense to begin with. Based on his injury, the timeline put it at roughly 3 to 6 weeks as sort of I understand grade 1 to 2, whatever. Still, 3 to 6 weeks was kind of the timeline we're looking at that made probably the most sense, especially for a team that is in no way going to rush him back. I'm talking he better be 110% or we're not even going to consider it because long-term damage to this guy would be franchise destroying. It is not worth it. So 3 to 6 feels comfortable to me, personally. And then Diana Rossini comes in and is like, I don't know, maybe he'll be back in 3, best case scenario. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking anyways. NFL's Tom Pelissero, the initial timetable for Love to return is 3 to 6 weeks, with some early optimism he could return sooner than later, pending a second opinion. So again, despite the fact that it was a grade 1 to grade 2, supposedly, still the timeline was that of a grade 2 sprain. Here is what LaFleur said, because everybody wants to point out how, LaFleur said maybe, you never know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes, maybe you never know, which is just coach speak for, I don't know, don't ask me about it. Let's get more specific about what LaFleur also said, though. We have to feel like he can protect himself. He's got to be confident enough to go out there and do that. Until that happens, we're not even going to think about it. This via Newsweek, Green Bay Packers News, quarterback Jordan Love likely won't play in week 3. This report is not just a regurgitation of the last people that we just saw. This is via news from Adam Schefter. I don't think Jordan Love is going to be able to play, Schefter said on the Pat McAfee show on Monday. Let's see how the week goes, but I personally don't expect to see him out there on Sunday. Now, this is referring back to last week, so he was talking about this week that he didn't expect. However, he goes on to say, he could surprise me. He could make a very quick recovery. I thought all along the 2 target dates were week 4 against the Vikings or week 5 against the Rams. So again, everything is pointing to this. Now, yes, there are miraculous healings. I'm not talking about supernatural necessarily. I'm just saying there are people that come back sooner than you would expect, but I don't have any reason to believe that. There is a timeline. It's 3 to 6 weeks. It could be longer. It could be shorter, but 3 to 6 weeks is the timeline. And so, yes, week 4, week 5 makes the most sense. Week 3 would be the earliest. Quarterbacks do tend to come back earlier, so week 3 is sort of the optimistic, semi-reasonable expectation. However, this is a very cautious franchise, being very cautious with their franchise, which is Jordan Love. And so maybe they give him an additional week and let it go out to week 5, because despite the fact that, it's the Vikings, it's week 4, it's very serious, they could be 3-0, and it's doesn't matter. It ain't worth it. They'd rather lose to the Vikings than lose Jordan Love. He goes on to say those always were going to be the 2 dates that they could get him back by. That's still the hope that he gets back at that point in time. Weeks 4 or 5 are more realistic right now. Based on Schefter's report, it looks as though the Packers will rely on backup quarterback Malik Willis in week 3. However, more recent reports are actually more negative. This is via Julia Stambaugh. This is from yesterday for me, so it would have been Sunday night, whatever. NFL rumors, Jordan Love targets week 5 return for the Packers versus the Rams after his knee injury. Here is Ian Rappaport talking about this on NFL Network.
Jordan Love, of course, as we know, is not going to play, coming back from that MCL sprain. My understanding is that he is targeting week 5, which is October 6th against, by the way, his hometown team growing up, the Los Angeles Rams. The injury is not quite as bad as they originally thought. If he only misses 3 games, which is what this would be, excellent outcome for the Green Bay Packers.
And that's also important context, because I think we've gotten so overhyped in our mind that it's only going to be like a week or so, or who knows, he could even play this week, like he's not even going to miss a week. that hearing week 5 becomes devastating, when in reality, that's actually a pretty quick turnaround. 3 weeks for an MCL sprain that looked like he tore his freaking ACL when you go back and watch his knee pop out of place. But again, when you look at the local reporters, it's a much more optimistic outlook. For example, Rob Domofsky of ESPN, who is a local reporter, says Love was reportedly, quote, really close to playing in week 2. Now, reports like that certainly make it seem like week 3 is not only possible, but likely. This is a quote from Rob Domofsky when he was on ESPN Milwaukee with Jen, Gabe, Chewy, whatever. I was told Love was really close to playing, and that was not some charade. So again, that's sort of the quote of a local beat reporter talking to people that he thinks are in the know in Green Bay, who are telling him that actually he's very, very close. Now, this might be real. Again, I'm down to 80% that he doesn't play. I'm leaving 20%. That's 1 in 5. That's a big change compared to where we were last week, which was like, there's no freaking way. I'm not calling it 100, but I'll call it 99. But just in terms of what makes the most sense, when every single national media figure is saying week 4, probably closer to week 5, when every doctor is saying 3 to 6 weeks, every single human being on planet Earth, the only guy coming out and making it seem like he's going to come back this week is Rob Domofsky, who's talking directly to the team. The team, by the way, is exactly the entity that is pushing out the false information that Jordan Love is just fine. The fact that he says it's not just some charade doesn't mean anything when the people who are putting on the charade are the ones relaying the information to Rob Domofsky. And if it's not those people, then it's not somebody I necessarily depend on. You know what I'm saying? The more reliable voices are the ones that are going to be lying. The less reliable voices that are less likely to lie are just that. They're less reliable voices. And again, remember, Rob Domofsky is not a small fish. This is not just some random Green Bay Packers podcaster like me just saying stuff where nobody would ever hear it aside from my very loyal and awesome audience. But like Ian Rappaport, I'm sure, is aware that Rob Domofsky said this. He has his own people, and he's like, nah, I'm going to say week 5. And listen, I'm not saying anything bad about Rob. I've done that plenty, but not in this situation. This is not me saying that Rob is like a shill for the team necessarily. This is just part of the program. The Ian Rappaport and those guys, they go through the same thing. They get fed bad information. They have to do the best they can to sift out what they think is good information and bad information. But sometimes that's just part of the game. If you want information, then you have to take the good with the bad. And the reason that they talk to you is because they know they can push the bad information to you and you can push that information out. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably not going to have an insight with some of these team sources. Ian Rappaport is able to pick up the phone and call people because they know that if they need something, they can call Ian Rappaport. That's how agents will get on the phone and say, here are the contract details. They're not doing it because they're best friends with Ian Rappaport. They want to make sure that their version of the story is the one that's getting out. Just saying. Control the narrative. And right now, the Packers are losing the narrative war that is trying to confuse the Tennessee Titans to whatever degree they may be confused. The only source that they have that seems to be getting out in their favor is Rob Domofsky. Now, as of today, Matt LaFleur did say, obviously, we'll have more information on Wednesday. So they're going to hold their cards closest to the vest. It's not like Wednesday is when we get all the magical information. He's the head coach. If he wants an update, he can get an update. Whether he has it or not, I don't know. The way that he would tell you that things go is that not my job, not my prob. You know, they handle the injury stuff. I don't really care. I'm guessing he wants a little bit more information when it comes to his starting quarterback. But the bottom line is, I'm not telling you jack squat until I'm actually obligated to do so. So I'm going to pretend that I don't know. We'll all find out together on Wednesday, and I'll give you as thorough of an answer as I can. When in reality, what's going to happen is they're going to know full well what the situation is. They'll probably get an update on Wednesday. Then they have to go through a filter of how do we answer the question? How do we want to present this to the media? Because you got to remember, too, when Matt LaFleur goes out and speaks to the media, it's not necessarily a question of how do I best inform the populace of everything that's going on behind the scenes. That's the reason why it's not necessarily a speech given by the coach. It's questions being asked of the coach. He's not trying to offer up information. He's trying to make sure you get as little information as you can, aside from the information that I want you to know. He'll use it as an opportunity to give you the stuff that he wants, and then he's going to scoff and give you an attitude when you ask questions about stuff that he doesn't necessarily want to get pushed out there. That's why Matt LaFleur's in a bad mood all the time. What's the status of Jordan Love? Go look at his face when that question is asked. Bro, I gave you the answer that you need, all right? Don't push it. Okay, I don't have contingency plans on follow-up questions. I gave you the general layout of what I'm supposed to say. Now shut up about Jordan Love. I'm not talking about it anymore. Because that's it. It's not their job, and it's also not their desire to make sure that everybody is as informed as they can possibly be about all the inner workings of the Green Bay Packers. In fact, it's the exact opposite. This is the team that will throw you out of practice if they find out that you're recording practice, which means nothing. Like, other teams get nothing from those practices, but that's how, like, guarded they are of everything. There's also a question of, well, does he need to practice first? In other words, he gets back to 100%, then he needs time to practice. LaFleur said, ideally, you would practice, but we're not going to rule out the possibility that he gets cleared, doesn't have much practice, and he's still our best option, which makes perfect sense. Now, you are probably a little bit worried in terms of, at least it's for me, winning the game is the most important. If Jordan's probably going to be your best option, but at the same time, I personally would be worried about Jordan, who had a day week 1, then didn't play, comes back, let's say, week 5, has kind of a rough day because he didn't practice. We're going into week 6. Jordan Love has not put anything good on tape. It would just make me nervous. I'm just saying. So I think the answer to that question comes down to, well, it depends how Malik's playing. And then finally, sounds like, and again, I don't know the status of a lot of this stuff. Sounds like there were 2 injuries in this game. Marshawn Lloyd left with an ankle injury and did not return. That one obviously is incredibly frustrating because Marshawn Lloyd was injured. Then he came back. He had 2 carries, got injured again, went out, finally got back, carries the ball like 8 times, goes out again with an ankle injury and doesn't return. I mean, he has been, every time he touches the ball, he's instantly injured. So, if we thought Matt LaFleur was frustrated last time, I made the comment before, it's kind of weird to see Matt LaFleur get frustrated at a player for having like a hamstring injury. Because he carried the ball twice and then went off, and he just seemed ticked. Well, now Marshawn Lloyd carries it again just a couple times, has an ankle injury, and is not okay to return. Jordan Morgan also exited after a shoulder injury. He's also been battling constant injuries. Very weird between Morgan and Lloyd just not being able to get back and then suffering different injuries. I don't remember exactly Jordan Morgan's history, but I know Marshawn Lloyd was not an ankle injury. It was a hamstring injury this last time around. So hopefully very minor for both. Jordan Morgan, we'll get to the PFF grades. He was the only one that stood out as being kind of subpar in terms of his grading, or I guess bad, you could say. But he also went out with an injury, so usually I don't pay much attention to that. But a little frustrating because I'm hopeful that Jordan can kind of step up. I kind of like our offensive line. It's kind of becoming okay, but if Jordan Morgan can kind of take a step and be a really solid right guard, I mean, that would be kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. And then Marshawn Lloyd, the way the running backs played in that game, especially Josh Jacobs, loving me some Josh Jacobs, but he probably can't carry the ball 34 times every time. However many carries, something like 34. It was ridiculous. Went over those stats yesterday, how historic all of that was. Probably going to need a little bit of help. And as much as I appreciate Emmanuel Wilson, we drafted Marshawn Lloyd pretty high, and so he needs to be available. So anyways, why don't we take a break? We'll come back and rip through some PFF stuff. I'll try to sneak in a little bit of stats here and there if I can. If not, we'll do it tomorrow. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Alrighty. Let's do, actually, let me switch off here. Let's do special teams first. Most underwhelming special teams performance ever. This reminds me of like the old school. The only difference is nobody was really bad. The lowest grade was a 59.2. The highest was a 65.5. Everybody was perfectly average. I think it's because nothing happened. They just kicked them all out of the end zone. I don't think they returned any, so that's why. So never mind. That's a useless thing. I do want to check the punter, though. What is he at right now? So Daniel Whalen, they gave him a 67, which what's a guy got to do to actually get a good grade? I think consistency is actually the most important because between the two grades in the 60s, he's now up to an 80 overall. By the way, in 2023, he had a 75 PFF grade. He is just a good punter. That's all there is to it. I want to check where he is. Yeah, we'll do that later. All right, back to the offense. Grades here, somewhat underwhelming. Kind of similarly, I mean, nobody great, nobody terrible. Everybody in the 50s, 60s, and 70s range. The only one outside of that, as I mentioned, was Jordan Morgan at a 48. But of the below 60 crowd, Emmanuel Wilson, 59, Luke Musgrave, 57, Ben Sims, 57, Christian Watson, 56, Zach Tom, 56, Marshawn Lloyd, 53, Bo Melton, 52. On the positive side, you've got, let's start with Malik Willis, who had basically a 70, Elton Jenkins, 70, Dontavian Wicks, 74, Romeo Doubs, 74, Josh Jacobs was the highest at 77. Getting into some of the specifics here, Malik had a 72.3 passing grade. No big-time throws, but no turnover-worthy plays. That is, in my opinion, based on what he needed to do, a perfect game. No turnover-worthy plays. I don't think. His adjusted completion percentage, 92.3. That is to say, of the 12 completions on 14 attempts, one of those they didn't even blame on Malik. So they basically had 13 out of 14 were good passes. If we look at him under pressure, not terrible. 53 grade under pressure, which is fine. 33% pressure rate is okay. I mean, Packers, when they have a really good offensive line, it's closer to like in the 20s. But 33 is not bad. That's kind of a standard day at the office. Let's see, 6 of his 18 dropbacks, to be specific. Of those 6 dropbacks, he attempted 3 passes. 2 of them were complete for 45 yards. While he was kept clean, he had an 80 PFF grade, 12 dropbacks, 11 attempts, 10 completions for 77 yards and a touchdown. So, got to get some pressure on the guy or he's going to carve you up, apparently. Receiving grades, Romeo Doubs, 80, Tucker Kraft, 76, Dontavian Wicks, 75. Then you had Marshawn at a 60, Jaden Reed at a 56, Luke Musgrave at a 55. Not really worried about any of these. I don't think anybody had a bad day. By the way, when your quarterback is 12 of 13, that means your wide receivers are 12 of 13 or 13 of 4, whatever it is. 12 of 13 as far as their receptions. The only not catch was Dontavian Wicks, and I'm not blaming that on him. PFF did not either. There were 0 drops in this game. So, yeah, I mean, were there any elite grades like, Christian Watson, who's not even on the list because he didn't have any targets, didn't grade out super well? Does that mean he had a bad day? I didn't go back and watch it, but I can give you one example because I had people in the comment section like, where's Christian? I don't know, dude. You tell me. I'm trying to watch the game too. I have no idea what's going on. But on one play, dude was wide open, probably could have walked in for a touchdown. Malik Willis didn't see him, took off running. Christian Watson, as soon as he sees he crosses that line, turns and blocks a guy straight through the end of the end zone. Beautiful block. So, it's just about everybody coming in, doing the work. I don't think anybody did a bad job. Obviously, some guys had better opportunities than others. Romeo had opportunities. He did a fantastic job with those opportunities. Same with Wicks. Again, he had 2 really tough catches out of his 4 targets. He caught 3 passes, and I don't remember the other 2, but one of them was really, really tough, and the one that he didn't get again was not a drop. Ball was there a little bit late and got punched out. Tucker Kraft, same thing, doing a lot with his opportunities. So not super worried about any of that. Rushing, they gave Josh Jacobs a 76 rushing grade. Not elite, but another good game for him. Where is he at overall right now? He had a 64 they gave him in week 1. And again, the rushing didn't go anywhere, but the advanced analytics were very favorable to Josh Jacobs. He finally got a little bit of space, and go figure, his grades got better. But anyways, I mean, basically nobody else hardly even ran the ball. The most amount of carries outside of that, again, I cannot believe 32 carries. Malik had 6. We already went through it, but Marshawn 6, whatever. Nobody else graded out super well. The highest was Bo Melton with a 63. The lowest was Marshawn Lloyd with a 54. And again, I don't think he did a bad job. I'd have to go back and look. There may have been some better opportunities he didn't take. I know he had some real tough sledding, especially down the stretch, but whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And again, I don't super care because Josh Jacobs looks like a great running back. Marshawn Lloyd has not even practiced because of all the injuries, basically, and plenty of time for him to prove that he's worth something here. Getting into the offensive line now, Rasheed Walker actually really took a giant step forward. I was frustrated at first because of that penalty, but at the end of the day, by the way, 2 hurries total in this game, both of them given up by Sean Ryan. So I'll give you the answers to the test here. 2 pressures, 0 sacks, 0 hits, 2 pressures given up by Sean Ryan, and that's it. Jordan Morgan, please come back. All right, left tackle, Rasheed Walker, and not very good run blocking grades, and I think that if we saw the grades in the first half, it'd be very different. I think second half, they were just getting the crap beat out of them. Whatever, I don't care. They do have to be better, period. But an 88 pass blocking grade. This is the Rasheed Walker that we all know and love. This is the guy where you look at last week and you say, bro, 66 pass blocking, 54 run blocking, and you gave up 4 pressures, including a sack, and had 2 penalties? This is garbage. He follows that up with, okay, I'll drop it to 1 penalty, and I'll bump it up to almost an elite pass blocking grade. How about that? Yes, please. Yes, please. Now, again, they don't have the best pass rushers in the world, but bad tackles don't put up elite pass blocking grades even against mid pass rushers. Okay? Maybe Rasheed isn't going to have 90s every single week, but if Rasheed can continue to be solid, that's going to be pretty awesome. And, you know, again, would it be better if he had like at least a 70 run? But yeah, of course it would, but it's the Green Bay Packers. It is what it is. Elton Jenkins really impressing me. I was ready to kind of relegate him to the, like, I just don't think he's got it anymore camp. You know, he suffered an injury in 2021. It's just like, this didn't feel like he was going to get back. I mean, last year he did get his pass blocking grade up. His run blocking grade was way down. The year before that, his run blocking grade was good, but his pass blocking was way down. So far, through 2 weeks, he's got a 71 run blocking grade and an 84 pass blocking grade. He's not given up a single sack, hit, or hurry. His grades in this game, 85 pass blocking and 65 run blocking. That left side was locked all the way down between Rasheed Walker and Elton Jenkins. Then at center, it really didn't get any worse. You want to talk about, like, we missed you? Like, thank you, Rasheed is back. Thank you, Elton Jenkins is back. Guess who else is back? Josh Myers. Maybe it's a fluke. You know, again, the guy didn't pass very much, so, you know, he didn't have as many opportunities to screw up, granted. But Josh Myers, 60 run blocking, couldn't care less, that sounds fine. 81 pass blocking. Yeah. So, again, last year, just a refresher on Josh Myers, right? Rookie year, 49 run blocking, 66 pass blocking. That's freaking rough. Now, he only played about a third of a season, but still, that has to be better. As much as run blocking isn't as important, 49 is trash. And if you're going to be putting up those trash numbers, you better be a real good pass blocker, not a mid pass blocker. The following year, he jumps it up to a 55 run blocking, which is, you know, little below average, still not great, but it's up to a 74, took a big jump. 2023, he just falls off a cliff. His run blocking stays 53, but his pass blocking drops to a 55. Never been that bad before. He had more sacks in that season than the prior 2. He had the same amount of hits that season as the prior 2. He had more hurries than the prior 2. Like, he more than doubled everything. It was a really bad year. So far this year, kind of a rough week 1, 2 hurries, 0 sacks, 0 hits, 0 hurries in this game, 81 pass blocking. He's been through 2 games now. He's got his pass blocking grade up to a 67, which would be his second best so far. And if he can continue this, and, you know, we're on a good track here, and has 0 sacks, 0 hits, and 2 hurries, 1 apiece in 2 weeks. So, again, probably a little bit of a fluke because of the style of game, but we'll get over it. Then we got our boy Sean Ryan here, 35 pass blocking grade. Jordan Morgan didn't look good, and Sean Ryan was a better run blocker. But if he's going to be putting up 35, and this is classic Sean Ryan, dude. This is what we talked about last year. He'll have a good week, then he'll have just the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. Now, he has yet to have a good week. He had a 65 pass blocking grade last week, 35 this week. For all we know, next week it'll be a 90. That's just where is that. But, I mean, this is not a guy that we're going to anchor our team with. And Zach Tom, For whatever reason, I mean, he did have a penalty, did not grade out as well as he usually does. I mean, 0 sacks, 0 hits, 0 hurries is really all that matters. But for some reason, PFF was a little bit annoyed. His run blocking grade in week 1 was a 93. This week, 56. His run blocking grade, or pass blocking grade in week 1, 85. This week, 68. So, I mean, overall, his grades are still through the roof. 0 sacks, 0 hits, 0 hurries, 100% pass blocking efficiency, 1 penalty, 76 overall grade, 73 run blocking, 81 pass blocking. I mean, the guy's still a stud, but it's worth wondering and wanting to go back and look at that and say, is PFF just drunk or did something happen? All right, why don't we take a break? We'll come back and do defense. We'll see where we're at with time after that. Defense is, once again, a little bit more depressing if you weren't already, because that wasn't great for offense. It gets worse. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Now, again, and I've mentioned this before, the scoreboard is all that matters. But I was not really happy with about anything that happened in this game. To me, it felt like everybody was open. They couldn't stop the run and they couldn't tackle. That's a bad combination. It's like, well, how could they not score? Because every time somebody was wide open, Anthony Richardson missed them. He kept throwing picks. He had 3 in a game. They kept fumbling the ball. There's a lot of reasons why, despite not being able to stop the run, tackle, or cover anybody, could lead to such a positive result. But anyways, good grades. We'll call it 4. Although 1 is technically a 69. Eric Stokes, they gave a 69 grade. No idea what happened there. He was not targeted a single time and got pulled, apparently, for Valentine. Don't really know why or what happened. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe Matt LaFleur probably talked about it. I have not heard it yet. We'll see. Jair, 71 PFF grade. Javon Bullard, 78. Frickin' love to see that. I mean, by the way, Jair loved it. This is the redemption game, right? A lot of guys that it's like, you're supposed to be better than this, and you're not, and I'm worried, and I'm pissed. This was Jair also's redemption game after week 1, despite everybody saying he's washed for some reason. Javon Bullard, fantastic leap. Dude had a 46 PFF grade week 1. This week, 78. We'll see if he's a little bit more volatile, or who knows, maybe dude's just a stud. And then the highest graded, only 8 snaps, but a 99.4 PFF grade for Eric Wilson. 98.5 coverage grade. We'll get into the specifics. He did not grade out well in run defense or tackling, but I suppose when you're targeted once and get a pick, you're probably going to grade out pretty well. On the negative side, and we'll just go everybody below a 60, Devontae Wyatt, 59. Again, phenom of a pass rusher. So I couldn't give a crap that they gave him a 61 pass rush grade. I think their pass rush grades are broken. I'm giving it away. We'll wait, but give me a break. He had almost half the team's, more than a third of the team's total pressures and all of the sacks, but whatever. But again, he's down because his tackling sucks, and yes, you got to work on that, but I just freaking don't care. Evan Williams, 58, not the worst, basically average. Edgerrin Cooper, 57, again, average. Low 50s, you got Keyshawn Nixon, 53. I was not happy with him. Then we get down into the 40s. TJ Slayton, 49. Kenny Clark, 48. Lucas Van Ness, 47. Rashawn Gary, 45. Kingsley Enagbare, 44. Quay Walker, 40. So this is the second week in a row our entire defensive front has been down here. Right? Like, Carl Brooks was average. He did get a 62. Devontae Wyatt, basically average, whatever. 62.7 is the highest PFF grade I think any defensive lineman has gotten for the Packers this year. I don't know if it's a Halfley thing. I don't know if it's a mobile quarterback thing. I don't know what's going on. But if we look at, let's pull up a couple of these guys and just see. I know some of them were decent, and then Quay is his own animal we'll get to in a second. TJ Slayton right now is graded out at a 41.8. He had a 42 week 1 and a 49 week 2. That's terrible. Kenny Clark, 39.8 PFF grade. This is by far his worst start to a season anytime ever. Now, yes, his pressures are still pretty solid, but the run defense is appalling. We'll get to the specific run defense grades in a little bit, but 39 in week 1, 48 in week 2. This defensive line has got to play significantly better. I don't know what the problem is. This is garbage. Lucas Van Ness was not terrible in week 1, so this is kind of a one-off, although he wasn't good in week 1 either. He had a 65, now it's a 47. And then Rashawn Gary, kind of similarly, just a 60 in week 1 and a 45 this week. He did get that 1 sack, which is kind of bailing him out in my mind, but at the same time, he has 3 pressures on 50 attempts. That's terrible, including a sack. And he has a 51 PFF grade. Like, this entire defensive front, again, I like that the Packers seem to be able to generate pressure whenever they want, but I think a lot of that has to do with Hafley dialing up schemes. I think it's the way that they rotate the players. I think it's taking advantage of certain people's strengths. I think it's bringing extra defenders, the right guys at the right times in the right ways, generating pressures. But as far as these guys being able to mano-a-mano just win, they're not doing it. And Kingsley Enagbare is god-awful. 41 and 43. He currently has a 38 PFF grade overall. So they got to figure this out because that is appalling. And again, if you don't like PFF and you want to go back and look at it, I don't know if I'm going to be doing it. Might be worthwhile, might not. Feel free to try to dispute them. But that's, go check every single down and see if you think they did a good job. Run defense. On the positive side, you got Jair with a 69 and Preston Smith with a 74, and that's it. Negative side in the 50s, Xavier McKinney, Devontae Wyatt, Edgerrin Cooper, TJ Slayton, Eric Wilson, and Kingsley Enagbare. In the 40s, and low 40s at that, 42 McDuffie, 42 Kenny, and 40 Quay Walker. By the way, I forgot about Quay Walker. I don't know what to say about Quay, man. He's been bad for 3 years, and he's terrible right now. Look, I like Gutekunst. I think he's done mostly incredible things. I think he's got way more hits than misses. I think he's got way more hits than most GMs. He has misses. I think this is a big miss. He was bad as a rookie. He was bad as a second-year guy. And right now, he's one of the worst linebackers in football. And the film tape on him that you can find online is embarrassing. It's embarrassing watching him try to make attempts. And I'm every time I see him, I want to rip whatever hair I have left out of my head. Now, maybe this is just a learning thing, just like Kenny, just like Rashawn, just like everybody else up front. Quay's got to figure it out, and once he does, everything's going to start going. But I'm freaking out about some of these guys just not doing anything in 2 weeks, and Quay Walker has not done anything in 2 years plus 2 weeks. Tackling, lot of positive grades here. Some of the, lot of positives, but on the negative side, Xavier McKinney, he had a missed tackle, 47 grade. Wilson had a missed tackle. Wyatt had a missed tackle. Quay had 2 missed tackles, led the team. There's only 6 total. He had 2 of them. Carl Brooks also had a missed tackle, so they graded out quite low. Nobody else missed any tackles. Pass rush grades, everybody ranges from 40s to 60s because I couldn't care less. Coverage grades, Keyshawn Nixon had a 50. Really worried about him and his ability to cover. I know he does some things well, but I don't know if man coverage is going to be his thing. And Quay Walker with the lowest coverage grade of a 47. On the positive side, Stokes had a 69, Jair had a 70, Javon Bullard 73, Isaiah McDuffie 74, Eric Wilson 98.5. Statistics, just 11 pressures in the game, which is not a lot. 1 from Preston, McDuffie, Quay, Van Ness, and Clark. Now remember, they didn't have the ball hardly at all, so it kind of comes down to percentages as well. So, for example, Preston had 1 on 19. That's not great. You want between 1 and 2. 2 would be nicer. McDuffie had 1 on 2 attempts. Quay had 1 on 6 attempts. Lucas Van Ness had 1 on 15 attempts. Again, you're looking for between 1 and 2, generally. Kenny Clark had 3 on 21 attempts. Devontae Wyatt led the team with 4 on just 19 attempts. Wyatt was just an absolute freaking wrecking ball. Basically 25% pressure rate, including his 1 sack. We covered the missed tackles, stops. We got 1 from Kenny, Xavier, Kingsley, Quay, and Van Ness. We had 2 from Preston, McDuffie, and Wyatt, and 3 from Keyshawn Nixon. Again, Keyshawn seems to be a pretty solid tackler. My issue with Keyshawn is his ability to cover. Forced fumbles, we had 1 from Eric Wilson. As far as coverage, one guy in coverage that really wasn't targeted was Eric Stokes. Other than that, we had Eric Wilson, 1 target, 1 pick. So that goes. Xavier McKinney, 1 target, 1 pick. Crazy. Javon Bullard, 1 target, 1 pass breakup. I mean, good Lord. Evan Williams, 2 targets, 1 reception, 1 interception. Jair Alexander, 3 targets, 1 reception for 18 yards. Carrington Valentine, 3 targets, 2 receptions for 25 yards and a pass breakup. Quay Walker, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 53 yards. McDuffie, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 44 yards, and a pass breakup. And then Keyshawn Nixon, 9 targets, 5 receptions, 34 yards, and a touchdown given up. All right, well, I think I am going to leave it at that. We got the rest of the week to look at some of the more advanced stats stuff with NFL Pro as well as SIS and whatnot. We'll see what we can gather. But we'll leave it at that. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.